Erin here. Thanks for joining. This is day 2 of our Intro into Yoga Therapy series. Today we're going to be working on sun salutations. And sun salutations is basically just a series of yoga poses that's really common to see in different yoga classes. There's many variations of sun salutations, and I think that's kind of what makes them nice, because you can really find versions that feel really good to you. You can use different versions in order to mix it up and not get bored. And you can just kind of find some freedom within the form of the yoga poses. So today I'm planning on going slowly, just pose by pose, and kind of talking you through it so that we all have good form and we know different options so that you can find a good level for yourself. And then after that, if we have time, we'll do 1 or 2 times through just flowing more quickly so you can get a feel for what that's like. Really, there's 3 things that I want you to remember or be thinking about during the session today, and that's first what we worked on last session on Tuesday, which is connecting with your breath. But actually, there's 2 more steps to really ensure that you're doing your yoga poses properly, and really you can use these 3 steps throughout all of yoga to make sure that you're doing the poses to the best of your ability and to make sure you're doing them as safely as possible. So the first one is the breath, which we've already talked about, making sure you're not losing the breath, making sure you're in tune with the breath, and that you're using a diaphragmatic breath, not some improper breathing pattern. Second will be checking in with your hip alignment. So what I mean by that is you have this lumbosacral joint right here, and it affects how much your pelvis tilts, right? So we want somewhere not completely flat back and not very arched, but somewhere in the middle where you feel comfortable. So kind of tuning in and trying to find where that neutral is for you, because everyone's a little different. And then the third thing will be your shoulder alignment. And so by that, I mean your scapulothoracic posture. So we want to always have kind of an open chest, relaxed traps up here. So if I'm cueing you to have your shoulders down, low, relaxed, that's kind of what I'm talking about here. We want to have nice, good posture up here. So that's really your 3 things within every pose. If you're in tune with your breath, if you have proper hip alignment and proper shoulder alignment, then you're doing pretty good. And this is just yoga practice, so there is not really a perfect. You'll just get better and more in tune with it over time. So if you feel like it's a little overwhelming to think of all these things at one time, you're definitely not alone. But that's part of the fun of getting improvement. So right now I want us to try those 3 things. Try to incorporate them just laying down, because that's really the best way to get a feel for having all 3 things working together. That's the easiest place to engage it, is when we're laying on our back. So if you guys will, find some space, lay on your back, and I want both knees bent. Having both knees bent like this, it gives you more of a sense of that proper hip alignment that I was talking about. So go ahead and flatten your back out all the way as far as you can. Kind of have to engage your core to do that. And now arch your back up as far as you can. You can kind of fit a couple hands underneath between your back and the floor. And now I want you to settle in somewhere in between where you feel most comfortable. All right, and now we want to adjust the shoulders. So try to have your shoulder blades flat on the ground and your shoulders low away from your ears. And try having palms up, arms straight down by your side. So now that we have everything in alignment, I want you to just focus in on the breath. And let's do 10 deep breaths just to warm up here. So remember your low diaphragmatic breath. If you want to change your hand posture to this rather than this for now, go right ahead. And when you're ready, we'll begin. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. In and out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale one last time, biggest breath of your day. And exhale nice and slow. All right, go ahead, turn to your side and sit on up. So now we'll go straight into our sun salutation. For this, I'm gonna have you start standing right at the front of your mat, if you have a yoga mat. If not, wherever is fine. So we're gonna start here in mountain pose. And really this might sound like a relatively passive posture, but it can be a really strong posture if you properly engage. So you're gonna have your feet flat on the ground, feet together, and I want you to think about grounding down into 4 corners of each foot. So you're kind of taking root here, building a nice strong base, and even feeling like you're slightly lifting up with your arches, the tiny muscles of your foot supporting you that way. And then you're gonna engage these muscles in your legs. So you can squeeze your glutes, squeeze your thighs, squeeze the hamstrings, and give yourself this nice, strong base. And once you have that, go ahead and bring your arms up overhead, palms facing each other. And now we're gonna slowly, with your exhale to support you, sitting back into chair pose. So your weight's gonna be in your heels here, and your arms are gonna still be above your head, as close to your ears as possible. And we're gonna sit here for a second. Try to adjust your shoulders so they're down and relaxed. Try to make sure your back is not too arched. And the weight is mostly in your heels. And now we're slowly gonna move into forward pose, our next posture. And since we're not completely warmed up yet, go ahead and shift, kind of bicycle pedal out your legs, just to kind of loosen up those hamstrings. They can get really tight. If you're not reaching the floor here, by the way, that's totally fine. You can have a slight bend in your knees if you need to. That's a fine variation. You can support your hands on your thighs if you need to. That's a fine variation. I really prefer having palms to elbows and just kind of letting gravity do some work for me. And now let's engage that deep, low breath. And now you're going to come halfway up. So a slight bend in the knees. And you're going to bring your back nice and flat, even your neck flat. Try to think of lengthening your spine like you're taller than you really are. And now we're going to come back down to forward fold. Try to get just a little bit deeper into forward fold this time around. And now you're just gonna step both feet back into plank pose. So your hands are right underneath your shoulders here, and you're trying to keep your body nice and straight, engaging that core. Variation, coming down to the knees. Variation 2 is if you come all fours if necessary. That's a lot easier on your back if you're having any back pain. So we're gonna hold here for a second. And then for this variation, let's come to our knees and slowly lower ourselves down with our arms. So you're going to keep your elbows in really close here. Squeeze them into your body. And now you're going to come down into a low cobra. So you're just bending back a little bit. Try to engage that low breath underneath you. power back into downward facing dog pose. So take a deep inhale and curl your toes underneath you. Get your arms nice and strong underneath you. We're gonna power back with our exhale because that's how we have the most control, is on our exhale. So inhale deep and then power back into downward facing dog. So in this, you're gonna be kind of like an upside down V. Imagine your tailbone facing straight up to the sky. And this one too can feel good to pedal it out a little bit. You can bend your knees a little bit, straighten them back out. Try to relax the shoulders. Kind of easier said than done in this pose. And now we're going to go into three-legged dog. So you're going to bring the left foot center and raise the right foot up. And from here, we're going to bring that right foot all the way through and try to step it between your hands. So now we're in more of a lunge position here. Nice and strong arms. You're going to start standing straight up, and we're in more of a crescent pose here. So here is a really good time to check in with that pelvic tilt. Make sure the core is engaged. I'm feeling a nice stretch in my left hip flexor here. And I'm just holding here, or I can hold arms up. Another variation I like to add in here, super common, is more of a warrior two. So you're just stretching it back out. And in this one, my back foot has a lift to the arch. So I'm pressing most of my weight into that outside part of my foot. Yoga is really good for building arches for people with flat feet. So now we're going to come back to center, arms back down, step the right foot back, and we're going to kneel. And this part should seem pretty familiar. You're going to lower back down, up into a low cobra. Get a couple deep breaths here. And now we're going to curl the toes under again. Nice strong arms. Deep inhale. And on the exhale, push back into downward facing dog again. Catch your breath here. Feel free to bend the knees if you need to. And now we're going to bring right foot center, left foot up. Three-legged dog. And now, part of the trick of getting your foot high enough here is to really squeeze up and try to curl that leg in as high as you can. You really have to engage your core muscles. It's not easy. But if you fall short, just readjust. Not a big deal. And come straight up into a crescent pose. Check in with your back here. Make sure you're feeling a stretch in the hip, not a sharp pain in the low back. In any of these poses, if you're feeling pain, it's probably a good idea to dial it back to where you're not feeling pain. And if you're still feeling pain, it's okay to sit out of something for a day. It's not a big deal, but we don't want to sit in painful postures. That's not really our goal. So now we're going to turn back out to warrior two. Might have to get a little deeper in this one because you want this front thigh to be relatively parallel to the ground. I'm not sure if mine's really a good example. And go ahead. Whoop, my towel's slipping. Come back down into a low lunge. Left foot forward. And we're going to step that left foot back into a plank again. Deep breath here. Nice, strong posture. And if you want to try a harder variation, our first one being going to the knees, but this harder variation being chaturanga, you will come forward a bit, and then you're going to lower nice and slow. And then come back up into a low cobra. I prefer low cobra. There are other versions of cobra where you come really high up. But that tends to hurt my back, so I don't do those variations. If that feels good for you, you're definitely welcome to. Even a little bit of swaying can be fun. But moral of the story is, if I'm getting any pinching in my low back here, I want to bring it down just a little bit. Use the strength in your arms to stay within a range that's not painful. All right. So now we're gonna press back into downward facing dog one more time. Use your exhale. And now we're gonna walk it forward. So you got a couple options here. One being you can bend your knees and jump forward. That one's kind of fun. That was kind of a bad example. You can just walk it up. One variation I really like is the crosswalk. And I like to take my time, go nice and slow, cherish the journey, and come all the way to the top of our mat where we're back and forward fold down. Catch your breath here. Take a few deep ones. And now we're gonna sit back into chair, weight in the heels. Check in with your shoulders, make sure they're not hiking up towards your ears. Check in with your back, make sure it's not arching. And now go ahead, stand up, arms coming out stretched. And that is the end of our first sun salutation. So I really love sun salutations, like I mentioned, because they're very variable. I'm sure you could find 100 different videos on YouTube of different variations and people doing it similar or the same. And it's nice too as a warm-up if you're going to go for a run, just kind of doing one time through like that. You can already feel, or I do at least, that I'm really pretty warmed up all over my body. And if you're looking for a workout, you can even just pop on some music and do 3 to 5 times through, just flowing as quickly or slowly as you'd like. And you can get a pretty good workout that way. So, we have time now. Let's go ahead and do one more time all the way through. I'll talk a little bit less and we'll go a little bit faster. But remember to tune in with your breath. You don't have to go right with me either. If it feels good to stay in a posture a little longer and then jump back into another, find some freedom in what feels good for you. Okay. So let's begin. Arms going overhead. Sitting back into chair. Folding down into forward fold. Stepping back to plank. Heading to your knees or going to chaturanga. And low cobra. Inhale, back into downward dog. Plant the left foot and raise the right foot. Stepping it through. Coming up nice and strong. Stepping it out into warrior two. Maybe even adding a triangle pose. Coming back down. Stepping it back to plank. Onto the knees or chaturanga. Slowly lower. Up into low cobra. Inhale, strong. Exhale, back to downward dog. and raise the left. Bend your knee, take it all the way through as far as you can. That one's never a good one for me. My right leg's always better. Coming up nice and strong and balanced. Harder to balance in this one than it looks. Always humbling to lose your balance in a pose that looks kind of easy. Bring it on out to warrior two. Bring it on into triangle pose if you feel like it. Get an extra stretch in the side body. Back down. Our last plank. Last chance to try out chaturanga if you are so inclined. Back into cobra. Deep inhale. Last time, back into downward dog. Walk it forward, crosswalk it forward. Bend your knees and jump forward, whatever you feel like. Coming back into a chair. Like you're sitting down, taking a breather for a second, but a little harder. Now bring it up, bring the arms out, extend a little bit if it feels good. And that is our flowing sun salutation variation. So again, thanks for joining us. That brings us to about the end of our time for today. Next week, our next session will be Tuesday at 5:30. And we will be going over some yoga that's really good for those of us that have some low back pain here and there. So we're going to be doing poses that pretty much focus on improving your spinal awareness, your hip flexibility and strength, and your core stability and control. So those are the main things we focus on in PT too with people who have low back pain. So I encourage you guys to come and join me. All right, have a good one.